Welcome to Career Elevation, where we make hiring
We're two
easy.
formal dinner nerds turned recruiters who've seen the good, bad, the ugly, and the you don't want to miss this stories. We're two formal.
If you're ready for better hiring, better teams, and better
You're
vibes,
in the right place. Let's elevate your dental world and have a little fun while doing it.
Hey, Destiny, how are you?
hey, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for today's episode. I think I get this question, comment, concern from a lot of different offices, and I think this is going to be super relevant for a lot of practices. So today we're going to be talking about the best hire that we've ever made versus the worst hire that we've ever made. And, this is such a very interesting learning experience for a lot of people. So for the listeners out there, I want to make sure that you guys are paying attention, that you're well aware that we hire all day, every day, and we're talking about the worst and the best from our experience. And that does not mean that it is your worst or your best, but I'm eager and I hope that to our listeners that you leave a comment so that we can hear your stories too. And maybe you'll be featured on one of our next podcast episodes. So Destiny, I'm sure you hear this all the time from the offices that we talk with too. Same kind of conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's people that I talk with and I think they're going to be the most amazing candidate because maybe they were just so bubbly personality wise. And then
Yeah.
you start to dive deeper into their job history or their references and things start to not add up. I remember one time you told me, you were like, Destiny, if the shit is shining, it's still shit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like, you're right. But it's nice to hear all these nice things and to believe this person because I want to see the glass half full. I want to believe that you're telling me all these real things, but the truth is, 9 times out of 10, you're probably lying to me in a job interview. And that's where mine and your shit sniffers have to come out and decide what's not real and what is. So,
Yeah.
there's obviously people that are fantastic. We have wonderful people on our team. We have wonderful people that we hire for other offices that have been there for a long time. The dental world is small, so I do feel like you start to make a name for yourself in an aspect of things.
Yeah.
Like I hope people look at me and you and think, wow, those are great people. I would want to work with them in any capacity at any point. So, what has been your best hire? Obviously, you've been doing this a little bit longer than me.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have a couple, but what made them stand out from the beginning to you that you would consider them one of the best people that you've hired for somebody?
Yeah. So initially I have two different people that I've thought of, and I really tried to think about all of the different practices. But what's really hard for me is I don't actually know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So the best hire that I've made, the two different people that I'm thinking of, they fill in the gaps where the company lacks. And I know there's a lot of people who go into making a hire and they think, oh, well, I just want a duplicate of this past office manager, or I want a duplicate of myself because this is the same tasks that this next person is going to be doing. You never want to duplicate 100%. One, there's always going to be things that each person lacks, right? There's things that I am not great at. I have taken the Gallup strength tests and I know that I am really good at connecting and being positive and being a good leader, but I am not the analytical person that I know that this business needs. And so the people that I'm thinking of are really, really capable human beings. They just have your back all the time. It's nice when you need something to be done and it's like, oh, I just don't have the time to do it. And then you realize, oh, this other person, they can do that for me and they can do it probably better or faster or maybe even just as good. And it's so nice to be able to rely on other people. And I'm so grateful for that. So what do you think is one of the best hires that you've ever made?
So again, back to the dental world being super small.
Yeah.
And I know I can talk about this person in the open because I trained her to be a dental assistant. So really, really small world. Kate, she'll probably watch this. I adore her. I adored her as a dental assisting student, and I just adore her now. It was probably my first 3 months on the job. And I saw her resume pop up and that we were going to interview her. And I was like, there's no way. Like, what a little world.
Yeah.
Well, now she obviously still works with Illuminate and it's a fantastic office. I knew that they would be a great match together. And now she's taken on all these extra tasks, which I knew she would because when she was a student in the dental assisting program that I was helping with, If you asked her to do anything, it didn't matter. She'd never done it before in her entire life. She was going to jump in that chair and try it. And she was
Yeah.
going to do it with a smile on her face. And she was excited. She wanted that challenge to learn. She wanted to be tested. And, even though somebody else maybe in the class thought it was scary, she was like, nope, let me get in there and do it. You need to go
Mhm.
spend 2 weeks in endo? She would. You wanted to go spend learning CAD CAM? She was jumping in to do it. Oral surgery didn't scare her. It was great. So when I interviewed her for this office, I knew she'd be great there. She is now going into the EFTA program with the office, is going to be an EFTA for the office. And she's taken over their social media and makes all these wonderful videos and does all this stuff. And she's always doing something fun. I've watched her now prosper in that office and to be a huge part of them. I think they're always going on conferences. She's always posting these things. And she's just so joyous. And that for me was what made her the best hire that I've seen so far. Not just that I trained her, but that her personality is meant to be in dentistry. She finds such a love for it. And when I hear somebody speak about dentistry and they ooze that love for it, I get excited because who wants to go to work and say, I spoke with somebody about this yesterday. They said they have some other dental assistants they work with that are just like, I don't want to be here today. I hate coming to work. Who
Yeah.
wants to work with somebody like that? Like, I get it. There's some days you wake up and you're like,
Over it already.
it's been a really long week. I'm tired. I get that. But to come in every day and act like you hate your job, maybe find a different job. But Kate doesn't do that. She literally is like a sunshine. And so for me, that's what made her stand out is that she loves dentistry and she loves learning and she's eager to do it and she'll take on a task even if it's not something she's done before just because she wants to give it a try. Maybe she won't be the best at it or maybe she will be the best person you've ever seen. Who knows? But she's willing to give that an option.
Yeah. And, I was thinking the same thing of if you're looking for a candidate, one thing that I think we should always look for, if you're in dentistry, if you're in construction, like I don't really care where you're at, but I think you have to ooze the love of dentistry if this is the field that you're in, right? And so that's what Kate embodies, is she has a love for what she does. And now let's say for your example, I think you are a great team member, and I'm so grateful that you're here, for example. I think that you not only ooze the love of dentistry, but I think you also ooze the love of people and wanting to be around other people, wanting to help them. And that's really what we do as a recruiters.
Yeah.
We get the opportunity to help. We don't have to do it. We get the opportunity. And I think that those are it's kind of the shift when you're talking with a candidate and it's like, oh yeah, well, I have to do endo at my practice. It's like, no, you get to do it. Yeah. Endo, most people hate endo. That's okay. But it's still another thing in your practice, another service that you get to provide to get your patients out of pain. And so when interviewing, that's kind of the shift that I want people to think about when they're going through this process is you get to do it, not you have to do it.
And that leads me into there's offices who are open to training people. You've never been in dentistry before. They're open to let you learn. And here's the thing that I think offices need to look at for that, because when I'm talking to these people, what made you interested in this job? What makes you interested in the dental field? I can't tell you how many times I've been told, I'm just looking for a job.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me feel like you're going to stay here long term. And I'm not saying that everybody I send you is going to stay somewhere 5, 10 years. In today's day and age, that doesn't always happen. You get 2 to 5 years out of somebody a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that has changed, but it just is what it is. Everybody's moving constantly. Technology's changing. The needs of your life are changing. I get that too. But for you to look at me and say, well, I've applied to a bunch of different jobs. I'm just looking for a job. I get it. We all need a job, but you're not going to be somebody that's going to come in and enjoy what you're doing every day. You're going to come
And
in
you're
and
not going to stay there.
no,
Yeah.
you're going to come in and be that person that's like, I don't want to be here
Mm-hmm.
today.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I don't want you here today.
I was gonna say, and I just want to fire you now. So don't come in here with that kind of attitude, because that's not the attitude that we are looking for with the people that we're hiring.
And does that make you feel better? Like saying
Yeah.
that? Because it doesn't me. It makes me feel worse and it makes me feel less motivated because now I'm like,
Yeah. Okay, so now looking back, do you think that there were any warning signs that you missed with the worst hire? And I think what you're going to say is exactly what I think you're going to say, because it was legitimately such a terrible hire. But it was a terrible outcome, I should say. Not a terrible hire. It was a terrible outcome.
They did not
I think
start
there's a
the
big difference.
position. Let me just preface that. They
So
did
true.
not. They did not start the position. Thankfully, we got close, and thank God we avoided any legal issues that may have arisen with that because that would have probably been a hot mess. I had to learn that sometimes things are too good to be true. Sometimes when somebody puts flowers over everything and makes you feel like you are wonderful, which I will preface this, it was when I first became a recruiter. So it was exciting to have somebody tell me, wow, you're doing such a great job. It's so like, I was like,
You're
oh,
such a great, what good questions you're
I'm like,
asking.
great. Like,
I
I
love your
feel so good.
hair.
Yeah. Like, thank you. Like, we all love to be told that we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And if anybody looks at me and says, "Oh, I don't care about that," you're a liar.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to feel like they are appreciated. Okay? It's just a human nature response. Like it uplifts your mood. But when it's too much, when it is
Mhm.
constant, every conversation, it's like, okay, why are we doing that? Like you've already made a good impression on me. I don't need you to tell me 27 times that I'm the best person you've ever talked to. Like you can't imagine, doing with this with anybody else. Because what ended up happening was the stories I were told ended up being total different stories when they met with it was the thing is they met with the office and it was fine the first visit and then they went back to meet with another doctor in the practice and then the story changed. The
Mhm.
whole life story changed.
Mhm.
It went from they were having a very stable life, they were set this and that to now they're living in Airbnbs and living out of a U-Haul. Oh,
Mansion Airbnbs, by the way.
in Airbnbs. And then we started to dive deeper, okay? Because I contact the references you give me. That's how it goes when you do a job. Like, I don't contact every office on your resume because we're stepping into legal issues there. You did not authorize me to do that. Maybe I could cause an issue in your life, especially if it's a current office you're working at. So until I need to do that, we usually contact the references, get those references, verify that those references are people you've worked with, things like that. People do lie. And these lies were starting to show versus what you said to me to what you said to that doctor. Still trying to glaze it over with a nice little frosting of everything's hunky dory. And it wasn't. And thank God we found all that out before the hiring process fully took place and they were on the staff because I don't know what necessarily would have happened. And I'm glad I don't know. I don't ever want to know. And it was a big lesson for me to have to just take that constructive criticism in that Destiny, hey, I know it sounds good and I know it makes you feel good, but not everything just because they're nice to you doesn't mean they're going to be a good hire. And you have to understand that. And that's something I had to take. Just because they have a bright personality, I have to look at the other red flags. Like I had a couple red flags with somebody earlier this week. Wonderful, amazing, loved them, loved chatting with them. But then it started to be very inconsistent, not
Mhm.
communicating back to me, not showing up to interviews and then texting last minute saying something came up. I get it, things do come up. But when it becomes a recurrent issue, I have to look into that as that's a red flag to me. I now have to mark that down and remember just because they're a shining star personality doesn't mean that they're the right hire for that aspect.
And in addition to all of this, this is why communication is so incredibly key when you're working with a recruiter and you have multiple doctors, you have an office manager and a doctor at a practice, or just anybody who has come in contact with this candidate, that all of the facts are congruent with each other. If they're not, keep asking more questions. Figure out more, have another phone call with this candidate. And you don't directly say, oh, hey, you told Sarah this thing, but you told Jessica this thing. What is the right thing? No, no, no. You find ways to ask in
Non
a non-accusatory way. What'd you say?
nonchalantly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
hey,
Just kind of bring that topic back up again. And if the outcome changes again, just cut it off. I don't care how much you like that person. You will find another person. If you are talking with two or three different people and everybody has different stories, hugest, biggest, largest, gigantic red flag that you'll ever find. Just don't hire that person. Don't bring that person on.
we strive and we say this on every interview. If you've interviewed with us, I'm not here to put a butt in a seat.
Yes.
I want to close a job. Obviously, I want to find that office somebody to fill that need they have in the office. But I don't want to fill it with just anybody because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, hiring costs money. Starting a person in a new practice, a new hire, costs the office money. And I don't want to do that. I would rather take more time finding somebody that will work out than, and I know that sucks. And especially you and I talk about this all the time in the hygiene market right now, things
Yeah.
do take time. And I hate it. And I don't, it sucks for me as much as it sucks for the office. I feel bad when I look at, offices we're hiring for, and I just don't have the right person for you right now. Could I send somebody over to you? Maybe. Do they have a hygiene license? I don't know. Like that. Do you want me to just send them a butt and a seat? No, don't do it.
Mhm.
Just don't. Rate on the right person. I know it makes things harder at work right now, but hiring the wrong person is going to cause issues with your current staff members. They're going to look at you and be like, do
And
you
so
know
much
what
money.
I'm having to take over this like they're here, they're a butt in a seat, they're here at the office, but I'm still doing all the tasks I was doing when they weren't here.
Yeah. Or probably more because you're cleaning up the mess of that person too. Like it's
Yeah.
a bad hire is so much worse than what people actually equate it to be every single time. I swear, every single time.
So obviously though, there's some good hires that happen and that surprises you. Obviously some bad hires surprise you too. What is a time a hire really surprised you? Like you heard about it and you were like, oh, shocked, either in a good or a
Yeah.
bad way.
Yeah. Okay, so I can give an example. So I hired Elisa. She is my executive assistant. I will give a firsthand experience. When I hired her, I was like, oh, cool. She's going to be a virtual assistant with me. I think she's going to do a good job. She had zero computer desk experience. She was a manager
Shocked to
at a
hear that.
restaurant. Yeah. And I remember her saying, I promise, Wendy, if you just take a chance on me, I will do what you ask me to do. And it wasn't necessarily that she was basically asking for the job. I mean, she was, which is a good thing, but I could see the desire. I could see that she wanted a different life. I could see the work that she had done and how it can translate into recruitment, even though it has nothing to do with each other. And so what surprised me about Elisa was not only the fact that she could do the job, but she turned into my executive assistant because she was so damn good at it. Right.
Yeah.
And if I'm not feeling well, or if I'm out of the office, if something happens, I can say, Elisa, I need you to be my body double. And she will answer emails on my behalf. She will text people on my behalf. People don't know that it's not me because it sounds exactly like me. And she makes posts that look just like if I were to do it. And just the output of what Elisa has done has so much surpassed whatever I expected in the beginning because my expectations were low because she didn't have experience. But I think the reason why she's doing so damn good is because I could see that she wanted it. And she presented to me that she wanted it. So bringing somebody on that has zero experience with virtual assistant, with recruitment, with dentistry, and being trained to do all of that stuff is not always a bad thing. And it doesn't always take as long as you think. I think there's too many people out there that are not willing to hire people not in dentistry that don't have the
Yeah.
experience. And
You think it's
Elisa,
going to be harder to train them.
yeah,
That's not always the truth.
yeah. And I know if I could duplicate Elisa and be like, here's another executive assistant, here's another executive assistant. But on the other hand, I can't because even though she works perfectly for us here at Career Elevation, that does not mean that she's going to be perfect at any other place that she goes to. Could fail at a lot of other businesses, right?
Yeah.
But it's the leadership that I have. It's the management style that I have comparatively to other people, right? It's so different. So I'm glad she's striving here.
It is. And I know you and I chatted about that earlier, just having a leader who, if you see something is wrong, like you know me, obviously you and I have worked together over 2.5 years now, almost at this point. You would be able to tell if something was wrong with me, even if I didn't say it to you. Just
Mhm.
because obviously you can watch my interviews, and if something has changed in the way my face is or my enthusiasm, it might be like, hey, Destiny, is everything okay?
Yeah.
I'm not coming at you that something's wrong or that you're doing anything wrong, but you don't seem yourself. Is there
Mhm.
anything that we can do to change that or whatever? I think the way you come at people when you notice a difference in them, it shows who you are as a leader because it makes your team members feel like you care about them more than just an employee, more than just a number. Like instead of coming at them like, hey, this wasn't your best work. What can we do to fix that? Hey, is anything going on in your outside life? Because you and I are human. There's things that go on in your life that I don't know about, but I can tell when maybe you're having an off day. And that's when I would send you a message like, is there anything I can take off your plate today? Is there anything that you maybe have on the back burner that I can just do for you and you don't have to worry about it? Because guess what? I know that there's things on the back burner of my mind that if I didn't have to worry about it, I would be in a much better mood some days because now I'm
Sure.
not thinking about the 10 other things I got to do later.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think being able to find somebody who is not a duplicate of you, but they pick up where you leave off. And, Elisa is very analytical and very detail oriented, and I'm very much more big picture and sunshine and rainbows and the silver lining and everything. And this is how things can be. And Elisa's like, but let's be honest, that's not really going to work in a nice way. So, yeah.
I feel
What
like
about
you
you?
and
Did you
I feel
have
like you and I do that sometimes too. I'm
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Wendy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we do. And I'm so grateful that we get the opportunity to work together and that we have that opportunity to talk to each other like that too. I wish
Have
everybody
you
did.
have you seen Frozen where it's Anna, the princess, and she's with this prince and they go, "We finish each other's sandwiches instead of sentences." I'm like, you know what? Yes, that's us sometimes. Maybe I'm not finishing your sentence to a T,
Yeah,
but
it's
maybe the
close.
idea I have to put into it can be helpful in it, and we
Mhm.
can cohesively together as a team, whether it's me and Elisa, you and Elisa, me and you, like figure out what needs to be done to get it done to ease everybody's day and just make life better at work and at home.
Did you have either a bad hire or a good hire surprise you after they started?
I did. I hired somebody who I thought was so professional and so clean cut and just wonderful throughout the interview process, throughout her in-person interview with the office. Like they said wonderful things. Then she got into the practice and it's like day two, issues started, drama started. And it was like, where did that come from out of left field? And then obviously, you and I are big on following up and checking in on what's going on. So we had spoke with the office. They had told us what was going on. So then I decided, let me follow up with the candidate and just see. I didn't go straight to assuming it was her because why would I after the
Yeah.
wonderful experience we've had in three different interviews? But it is easy for people to put a sheepskin on themselves and be a different person to get a job. And
Mhm.
so I checked in with that candidate and it instantly became a huge long message about how horrible the other employees are in the office. And it's like I had to step back and be like, if they were all so horrible, they wouldn't have been working so well together beforehand. So like the common denominator here is really you. And so I had to chat with the office about that. And it did not end up working out because nobody wants to work in a drama filled office. It makes coming to work hard for you as an employee to have anxiety to come in thinking something is going to happen that day. Nobody wants to come in and be like, I know this person's going to start drama with me today. You don't want to go to work that way. So it
Mhm.
ended up not working out, but it shocked me from the professionalism I saw to the immaturity that came out when they
Yeah.
got into the practice with other employees.
Yeah. And sometimes people are really, really good with the interviewing process, and you can really put a good mask on sometimes. And sometimes it's really hard to see through that. So,
I
um,
actually saw in some of my classwork right now in college is people are using AI to fake interviews. They're basically reading,
yeah.
they're basically reading a script to me off of questions they think are going to be asked. And you
Mm,
can see when a question like you can kind of see it in their eye movement or just their body language. That's why I think when we do Zoom interviews, it's important because I know a lot of recruiters just do phone interviews.
yeah.
And you can't see somebody's body language. You can't see how they react to something. You can hear it sometimes, but not always. People are good at masking that. And so when you ask a question that's not a common interview question, and a lot of times they'll go, "Oh, that's a really good question. I've never heard that before." That's the initial like response first. And then they kind of like stumble through the answer and they're like, "Oh, well, I just do everything or I've done so much in my time." That didn't
Mhm.
really answer my question. That was an avoidance,
Yeah.
and so weird moments that happen.
Yeah. I am very big into learning. learning from my own mistakes, learning from your mistakes, learning from anybody's mistakes, right? I think that that's a very, very important thing in life. So, what lessons did each experience, both a positive and a negative candidate or hire, teach you about hiring?
The biggest, obviously, was that just because someone is so kind and nice in the interview process doesn't mean they're always going to be that way. You know, again, you can be a wolf in sheep's clothing. You can
Yeah.
lie. You can tell me all these things on an interview because it's easy to fake it till you make it. And then when your true colors start to show, it's like, oh. So I've had to really hone in on those red flags, on picking up those little things that may be missed and just say, hey, I'm not sure that this is an issue, but they did reschedule their interview last minute, and then it took 3 days to hear back from them to reschedule the interview.
Hmm.
Maybe they were having a bad day, and it's okay. Again, we're very understanding people. I get that. People have lives. But also in that aspect, it's not hard to send a text message and just say, hey, I'm really busy the next couple of days. Can I please get back to you when things calm down to reschedule this? I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah.
But it's so simple
Absolutely.
to do that. So that's a big thing for me is just noting things so that later on, if it doesn't work out, like, okay, this was a red flag.
Yeah.
Remember that for next time and keep
Mhm.
it in your back pocket.
Yeah. I take every hire and every office that I work with like a mini science experiment. And I always am trying to compile data, even if it's just in my head. I think that it's so important because I get offices all the time that are like, so what if a candidate does X, Y, and Z? And so I'm just trying to remember all of the different things, what happens with the people that we interview and the people that we hire in place. And when an office says, oh, we need your services, and then they say, oh, actually, we don't need your services because of X, Y, and Z. And, somebody else from the team stepped in to be the office manager instead. And, whatever the case is, I take every hire as a mini science experiment. And sometimes those science experiments or the hires, sometimes they go really well, and sometimes it legitimately blows up in your face. I'm grateful that usually our calculations are correct, but every now and again it does happen because it is going to happen no matter what, because we are humans and you cannot there it's not like you can't open my brain and say exactly what's inside of it. One day, I'm sure something like that will exist, but definitely not today. I take every interview, every office, every candidate experience like a science experiment.
Well, and feeding into the science experiment of that is it's not always the candidate issue because
Yeah.
we've worked with offices where it's an onboarding issue. It's a management leadership style issue. And that's when sometimes we have to have those hard conversations with the offices and say, hey, we've sent you 7 people that are in our book and in our expertise a good match for what you're telling me you're looking for. You're telling me it's not. So where is the disconnection here?
Disconnect. Yeah.
Like, what are you seeing that isn't what you're looking for so that I can change my interview process if necessary? And in other scenarios, maybe if you've offered 7 people the job and they've all declined, where is the issue in your in-person process? And where is the issue in what you're saying to these candidates that we can adjust and fix so that this doesn't continue to happen? Because
Mhm.
if you're wanting to hire all these people, clearly they're a good match for you, but what is making it not a good match for multiple people that maybe we can just fix, we can talk through? And some offices don't want to hear that. Some offices do feel nothing is wrong with them. It is not them issue. And that happens. And that's where the part of the experiment that you are playing into here is it's not always going to work out and it's not always the candidate's fault either. And so we have to be open to constructive criticism as human beings. We're not perfect. No one is. I know we all want to think that we're the best people in the world and we strive to be, but we're not. We make mistakes and we can learn from things and be a better person every day in the aspect. I know there's some days where you have to be like, Destiny, I know it's been a hard day, but let's look on the greener side of that grass and just remember that it's not going to be this way every day. Tomorrow's a new day and it is going to be better. Smile a little and just push through because there's no reason for me to sit there and dwell on negativity. And so just because you're telling me to do something better doesn't mean you hate me. And that's the same thing when we're talking to offices. Just because I'm telling you that this isn't working doesn't mean I think you're a bad office. we just need to work on some things.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to figure out where the disconnect is at. And we are little detectives when it comes to that because every person is different. And maybe the way that the office is doing the interview process, the shadow day, the working interview, it works really well for the people that they've hired, but maybe it doesn't work anymore. So, okay. Now, on our last question, we can keep it short and sweet. If you could give one piece of advice to an office making a hiring decision today, what would your advice be?
If it's a maybe, it's a no. And I
Hell
got
yeah.
that. If I got that from you. That is the biggest thing when I first became a recruiter was just I was looking into things and I was like, but they were so good at this and this and this. And you were like, but Destiny, the word is but. You
Uh-huh.
are considering all these other issues and you're trying to talk yourself into it being a good thing because it's a maybe, so it's a no. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn that. And it was hard for me to have to tell people that I thought had great personalities, like, I'm sorry, no, it's just not a good fit for this job. Not that you're a bad person, it's just not a good fit. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. So obviously you have a lot of advice to give. What is your biggest piece of advice?
Well, your answer, that's a very common thing that I say to people. So absolutely, if it's a maybe, it's always a no. But also, trust your gut. Your gut is always right. So, how we were talking about earlier, if a candidate is telling the same story, but vastly different stories at the same time to different team members, and the word comes back, your gut should always be right. If you have red flags and you're like, hey, what, that doesn't make sense, trust your gut every single time. Just lean into that. So, all right, friends, that's a wrap. If today's episode gave you a little laugh, a tip, or maybe even just a little sanity, hit the follow button and share this podcast with somebody who's in dentistry who just maybe needs a tiny little miracle in their hiring life.
We've got more stories, strategy, and sass coming your way.
Until next time, stay elevated.